If you're playing Fire Emblem Engage, you might find that you're getting hit more often than you would expect, especially if you're coming off of Fire Emblem Three Houses. Why is that? It's because Fire Emblem often lies to you when it comes to hit chances. Previous Fire Emblem games, that is. The best part is, Engage is actually more honest to you, and that's what's throwing you off, but it's not 100% honest. I am Mecha, and in this video I'm going to explain how the Engage RNG works. So, in Fire Emblem, it's an accepted tradition that the hit rates you see on screen are not your actual percentage chances to hit. There's some math going on behind the scenes that distorts them to either make it more or less likely than you would think. And Three Houses and Engage differ in how they distort it, both using a formula that's already been used in previous entries. Three Houses' formula is the same as the most modern entries, including the GBA ones, while Engage uses the same formula as Fates and Shadows of Valentia. If you're already familiar with the series, that might tell you all you need to know. But if you're not, or you'd like a refresher, I'll go into a little more detail. Quick disclaimer, this video was made less than a week from Engage's release. Because of that, or simply because I make mistakes every now and then, some parts of it might be proven wrong in the future. Make sure to check the description and the pinned comment, because that is where I'll put my corrections. The Engage formula has a simple part and a not so simple part. The simple part is that if the hit rate is below 50, then what you see is what you get. If the game says an attack has a 40 hit rate, then that means there's a 40% chance it will connect. In other words, below 50, displayed hit is the same as true hit. Then there's the not so simple part for hit rates of 50 and above. It has this super gross, complicated formula. I'm not going to bother deciphering it, but if you're interested, there's this excellent post on Reddit by user DE where you can check all the math yourself. It is thanks to DE's testing that we know most of the information from this video, by the way, so shoutouts to them. All you need to know is that it's a formula that distorts the hit rates in a way similar to what other games do. Instead of getting into the nitty-gritty, I'll just go over the broad implications because I think that's all you need to understand it. First of all, there's this handy chart made by Kirby Master. The yellow line is for games where the hit rate is not a lie, such as the older entries, which use what we call a 1RN system. What you see is what you get. 30 hit means a 30% chance to hit. The red line is hybrid RN, which is what's used in Engage. You'll notice it isn't there below 50 hit because it's being covered by the yellow line, since they're the exact same. But for 50 and above, you can see that the hit rates are significantly higher than what's being displayed. I wouldn't recommend trying to memorize this exactly, but it might be nice to have a couple of reference points. That's why Kirby Master also included this handy table that lets you look up any displayed hit in any game. Now that table is pretty large, so I made a smaller cheat sheet here for a couple of benchmarks, with the true hit percentages rounded to the nearest integer. Is that how you pronounce it? I have no idea. So if you have 60 hit, you know it's actually 65, if you see 70, you know it's 79, and so on. The difference between true and displayed hit is 10 at most, and the distortion is the largest in the 70 to 80s area. Now that we know roughly how the RNG of Engage works, we can get into it and see why it can feel different from other games like Three Houses. Let's go back to the graph for a minute. For the hit rates above 50%, you can see that the red line for Engage isn't very different from the blue line from Three Houses. In fact, if you look at the table, the differences between the two are usually like 3 to 4%. But if you look at the hit rates below 50%, they tell a very different story. Remember, for Engage, the hit rates you see are what you get, so if it says 40, it actually means 40%. That is not the case for games like Three Houses, which use the 2RN system. Now, what does that mean? I know a lot of you watching at this point probably already know, but allow me to explain for those who don't. The yellow line follows what we call 1RN. The game rolls one random number between 1 and 99 and checks it against the hit rate. If the random number it comes up with is below the displayed hit rate, then it connects. If the random number is above the displayed hit rate, then it's a miss. This is a very vague and broad way of putting it because there's all kinds of details I'm leaving out, but those aren't important right now. The point is, one random number is rolled and then checked against the hit rate. And then there's 2RN, which, as the name implies, instead of one number, it rolls 2, and then it takes the average of those two. That makes for very different results from 1RN. So, for example, it can roll a 30 and a 70, which averages out to 50. In practice, this means that 2RN comes up with numbers that are closer to 50 than 1RN. And in turn, that means that hit rates above 50 are more likely to connect, and hit rates below 50 are more likely to miss. If you don't fully understand why the math works out that way but you would like to, I recommend pausing the video and working out some examples with pen and paper. But for the purposes of this video, I'm going to stick to what this all means in practice. I've already mentioned that for hit rates above 50, the 2 RN system matches pretty well with the engage system, so it probably feels about the same whether you're playing 3 houses or engage. But for hit rates below 50, you can see that the 2 RN system curves downwards. I made another table to make it easier to see. The difference gets as big as 12% in these examples. An attack with 10 hit and engage is 5 times as likely to connect as it is in 3 houses, 2% versus 10%. It's still rare, but if you play enough, it should be noticeable. And that's why you're getting hit more often than might feel fair to you. The hit rates below 50 actually do have a higher chance to hit and engage than they do in 3 houses. Now, I don't know why developers made the hit rates that way, but I can speculate. Humans are generally pretty bad at calculating odds. If you see an attack with an 80 hit rate, you're going to assume it's going to hit most of the time. And when it misses, that feels out of place. You're getting unlucky. And similarly, if you see an enemy with 30% hits, it feels like he should miss because it's more likely than that he's going to hit. But as you're playing more and more often, you're going to get unlucky every now and then, and your 80s will sometimes miss, and their 30s will sometimes connect. That's just how it works. You're never going to dodge all the 30s. The 2 RN system was probably invented with this in mind. That way, the hit rates will trend more towards what players feel like what should happen. A 90 hit in 2 RN hits like 99% of the time, you'll almost never miss. And the way Fire Emblem plays, the player usually has the higher hit rates, so this helps you make more reliable strategies and probably get less frustrated. It makes sense that both 2 RN and Hybrid RN are made with this in mind. For the hit rates below 50, those are usually for the enemies. I think developers for games with Hybrid RN didn't want player characters avoiding enemies too easily. Dodge tanking, as it's called, can be quite overpowered. Of course, all of that is speculation on my part. I don't make these games, I just play them and enjoy them, and I'm gonna continue doing that now. Credits to DE for testing the Engage RNG and making a comprehensive Reddit post, and thanks to Kirby Master for the spreadsheets. Both of those will be linked in the description down below. If you have any questions, corrections, or guide requests, feel free to leave them in the comments. Peace.